Okay, looks like we are now live on YouTube.
And our YouTube viewer, whoever you are. Firstly, may I ask for any apologies of absence for this meeting?
Sorry, Chair, just give me a second to get rid of YouTube because I'm going to get some feedback.
Are you okay, Laura?
I'm struggling to find what to close down.
It should be a blue box.
Zoom. Box. The Zoom box, yeah, sorry, yeah. Okay, that's, I think that's better. Yeah, it's okay now.
Yeah. All right, then let's go again with the apologies for absence.
Chair, Anthony's got his hand up.
Anthony, go ahead.
Thank you. No, I just wanted to mention apologies in advance, perhaps. I'm going to go at 8 o'clock because I want to watch Boris's address. So I'll watch till that. I'll join in till then.
You're a very good local politician. Should we aim to finish by 8 so we can all listen to Boris? Should we aim for that?
Yep, I like that, Chair. Second that motion.
All right. Laura, do you have any apologies for absence?
We seem to be getting a delay and then a repeat of things people are saying.
Are you watching on YouTube or on Zoom?
Right, Laura, I think I know what the problem is. I'll deal with it. If you go on to mute, Chair, the only apology we've had is Gloria Ellington from the Corby Business Group. Not aware of any other apologies.
All right. Thank you. So then let's swiftly move on for the minutes of our last meeting a long time ago, 3rd of March, before the madness. Is anybody prepared to propose those minutes, please? Judy, are you happy with them?
Yeah, I'll happily propose those.
I'll second.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ray. All right, Dean, if you're prepared to brave the Zoom, would you like to give us your enforcement briefing? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening. I thought if I read through my briefing and then obviously take any questions at the end for anybody that has anything to put forward. Is that okay?
Yep.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah. COVID-19 has had a massive impact on the planning enforcement team, not only in regards to levels of complaints received, but also the day-to-day running under the restricted regime within the office. Initially, when the borough was part of the national lockdown, the enforcement team gave assistance in monitoring activity on the industrial estates and building sites to ensure only essential work was being carried out and COVID-19's guidelines were being adhered to. Enforcement complaints since April 2020 have risen by 50%, with a monthly average now standing at 30 new complaints being recorded. The sharp rise in complaints is mainly a result of more people being at home during the day, so activities at neighbouring properties, which normally would not be noted as they would be at work, are being reported as possible breaches. Also, many people isolating or on furlough were using the time to commence DIY projects, which also gave rise to complaints from neighbours and inquiries as to the need for planning permission. Complaints are still recorded by the same process, although more emphasis has to be put on the priority of a case and the harm being caused before deciding to visit as a matter of urgency. The 4-year rule for unauthorised development and the 10-year rule for change of use have been major factors when prioritising the cases in the current climate. During this period, unannounced visits to residential addresses were suspended because of the virus. Contacting the owner of a property being complained about to see if occupiers are isolating can be counterproductive. It gives the owner-occupier opportunity to carry out works or actions that would cover up any possible breach that would have been identified on an unannounced visit. Some unauthorised development matters were pursued by letter, advising to cease work as a complaint had been received and wait for a visit from the council to check on the works. Where this has occurred, the majority of these visits have now been carried out whilst following full PPE and safe distancing guidance, and those matters have been progressed. Site visits to commercial premises and building sites, either for investigation or monitoring, have been ongoing whilst following social distancing guidelines. One enforcement notice has been served during the lockdown period, with authority granted for a further to be served. Just a further add-on to this report, actually, the 2 other notices that have been collated have now been collated and are with our legal department. 2 planning contravention notices are awaiting service, and a breach of condition enforcement notice and stop notice are also with legal awaiting their input. It also has to be mentioned that several high-profile and complex matters are also being dealt with on a daily basis. This work is not always recorded as a new case, as the assistance being given can be as a result of previous involvement by the enforcement team. But this has included the SUEs and land at Price Hall, Oakley Vale, Little Stannion, Weldon Park, land off Steel Road, and the land next to Morrison's. Notwithstanding the normal caseload, there's also been some issues with some of the large SUE sites, and the enforcement team have completed 7 written responses to MP inquiries and have been actively assisted on a recent spate of freedom of information requests. Several unannounced visits have been carried out with officers from private sector housing on alleged houses in multiple occupation, and where a breach has been identified, this has been progressed as a planning enforcement matter. Due to the current staffing levels in the office, a lot of general inquiries being sent through to either be dealt with over the phone or by email, which does add some extra pressure to our workload, but it's important to maintain a service to members of the public. That's my briefing note, and I'm happy to take any questions on its contents.
Thank you very much, Dean. As the recipient of an enforcement visit myself, it was done very nicely. Thank you very much to the officers that came out, you know, just about people not sitting in the right place and things. So I appreciate that they did it in a really, really sensitive way. And I also note that the police have been sort of taking off some of the load of that, especially, you know, in cafes and stuff. So
absolutely, yes, yeah.
That we've been looked after in that way. So thank you.
Okay, no problem at all.
Does anybody else like to speak? Sorry, I've taken my hands down. Let me see what we've got. Judy, would you like to go ahead? Judy, you have to unmute yourself, my love.
Sorry, I was on a roll there. Thank you for your report, Dean. This has nothing at all to do with that. Anne Brown's logged out. She's logged back in. She can't hear anything. Laura, Paul, I'm wondering if you can help at all. Any ideas?
I doubt it, Councillor.
Sorry, Chair.
I don't think it's something at our end on that one.
Okay, I'll phone her and try.
Councillor Brown, can you speak?
She can't hear. That's the problem, Paul. So she won't be.
Right. I mean, I think my best advice would be for her to log out and try a 3rd time. And if that doesn't work, then I think we'll have to call it an evening, I think.
Okay, well, excuse me being on the phone for 2 minutes. I'll phone her and tell her. Thanks.
Paul, is there a number she can call in and just do audio only?
Sorry, there is a number on the original invitation, that diary invitation she would have received. Yeah, she can phone in if she wishes.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I'll suggest that as well. Thank you.
All right. Does anybody else have anything they'd like to put into the meeting? Kevin?
Thanks. Thanks, Dean, for your report. Can you hear me okay, everybody?
Yeah,
yes.
we can.
Yeah.
Oh, very good. There was some... Hi,
Judy.
Hi. Sorry, Councillor Kane, we can hear you for some reason.
No, it's Anne. Anne, put your mute on. Thank you. Okay, Kevin, on your...
Yeah, Dean, thanks for your report. there was some unauthorised works took place next to Morrison's distribution centre on the I think it's Weldon Industrial Estate, is it South Weldon? There was a lot of vegetation cleared away. It would appear there was no environmental report or impact report submitted to the council. What's likely to happen if they do submit a full planning application to the council, with respect that there's a lot of environmental damage done there that cannot be undone?
Yeah, I am aware of the sites next to the Morrison's freezer warehouse. We received complaints over the land clearance, although the land about 15 years ago was subject of an outline planning permission. Nothing ever came of that. At that point, we were at a loss as to who was actually operating on the site, because obviously Morrison's at that point had sold it. We were aware of the land clearance. Unfortunately, there was no, although it's part of, I understand, a green corridor, there was certainly nothing under the planning legislation that I could go out and stop them from doing the clearance of the land. I did, however, pass that on to our wildlife people. I also got in touch with Heather Webb at County, but unfortunately at that time they were restricted from going out. So I went out by myself. Very much like you say, yeah, it's very much unfortunately after the horse has bolted with regards to the clearance that's taken place. And that in itself has given rise to other complaints anyway for other things that have come as a result. I'm dealing with the importation of the material, the stone. We're in consultation at the moment with the current owners of the site. I've already obviously advised them that the action at the moment is unauthorised. There's no permissions in place for the importation of that material. So it's at a stage at the moment where they're sort of on a timescale now with regards to either clarifying what their intentions are or getting an application in to cover it. And obviously, one of the things I will make sure that Heather is aware of is that we would want a very enhanced landscaping scheme to try in some way put some mitigation back in for trees, bushes, whatever that was lost as a result of the action that went on at that time. But like I said, at the time when they went in to clear the land, it was done so under permitted development. There was nothing I could have done about it. So I'm sort of playing catch up, if you like. But now, like I said, they've imported the stone to create a hard surface. Now I can do something about it. I've also had dealings with them over there. I believe there was some flooding issues to the back end of Hobby Drive, and they've got some drainage engineers on site as well dealing with that. So we are in correspondence with them. The landowners are a developer that we are aware of in the area. We have had several conversations with them over certain sites.
Anne Brown joined the meeting.
So yeah, we are well aware of the site. It is being monitored. We are in consultation with the developer, but like I said, there are some strict timelines being attached now to get some clarity from them before we take consideration over taking matters further and escalating to any form of formal status.
Thank you, Dean. Can I just add in on, because I'm also that's also part of our patch there.
Yeah.
It's shocking what they've done. Absolutely shocking what they've done. That in the middle of bird nesting season, when you've got newts running all over the place, you've got deer everywhere, including baby ones, bats all over the show. I've seen weasels in there, I've seen stoats in there, and they just came along and did that almost under cover of night. And it's really, really wrong what they've done. And I hope that they are punished for it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that very much was one of the reasons I tried to get Heather involved straight away. She has all the power with regards to, nesting birds, the Wildlife Act and everything like that, and disturbing protected species and all those sort of things. So to a certain extent, I would very much have been piggybacking on the back of her and her legislation. I forwarded all the photographs over to her of the land when I first went out on site. But like I said, unfortunately, at this present time, she said they were unable or they were restricted from visiting. And so, like I say, we're very much playing catch up, and all we can really do is ask for an enhanced scheme to try and mitigate some of the damage that they've already caused. But yeah, I appreciate it. Our hands, unfortunately, our hands are tied.
You know, it sort of puts it into light when Priors Hall, well, Urban and Civic have to go through a 6-month process to move a stone, and those people have just cleared 1,000 trees in one day.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't want to say any more, but that's, you know, it's serious what's happened.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, no, I totally understand the local upset about it, definitely. And certainly looking at the outline application that was put in 2005, there was a lot of conditions attached to that outline permission with regards to the environmental impact and studies to be taken place and things like that. But of course, that permission was never implemented. So that obviously expired after the 12 months. And like I said, we were playing catch up. Unfortunately, the clearance of the land of that nature, because nothing was protected with regards to the trees, bushes, things like that. So they're within their entitlement to go in there. But it was other legislation. But like I said, I contacted the people that I would have thought could have done something. But unfortunately, like I said, there's been very little, as far as I can tell, that's action that's been taken.
All right, thank you very much indeed.
Can I just come
Lynn,
back?
do you have something? Oh, sorry, can I just go to Lynn?
Yeah.
Lynn, that's it?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, knowing the constraints that you're under, especially with COVID-19, thank you very much for the report. I don't underestimate what you've had to deal with, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. Kevin, are you coming back in?
Yeah, I would say thank you, Dean, for your prompt action. It is most disappointing that a developer would do the things that they have done, probably in full knowledge of what they were doing. We've got a planning application coming in for Napier Road which has submitted a full environmental study before anything has happened. It's strange that you'll say that it's permitted development, but surely even under permitted development, environmental impact has to be carried out before to understand what would happen, and mitigation taken against to minimize the environmental impact that would happen. So it's very, very disappointing that they took this course of action.
Yes, I appreciate that position. And environmental impact assessments would have most likely been included on any application should it have come in prior to the works taking place. That's why, like I said, I was very much playing catch up and relying on other legislation, like you say, the environmental side of things and those, because I had nothing to go from under my legislation. Hence, I was passing it on to those other departments that I thought possibly could. So, like I said, I was very much on the back foot to start with, but that doesn't demean the fact that I will ensure that we do get full involvement from county, any wildlife habitat people as well with any subsequent application that comes in, because we want the mitigation, we want things being put back, ponds planted in, things like that. So that'll be something that we hope we can secure through an enhanced landscaping scheme.
All right, lovely. Thank you ever so much, Dean. You can spend the rest of your evening with us if you want, or you're welcome to leave us. But thank you much for your time. And your gazebo's lovely, whatever that is. It looks lovely.
Thank you.
All right. Antonia, are you ready to give us your Safer Corby neighbourhood briefing? Antonia? Is she there? I can't see her.
Yes, Tony, you're on mute at the moment.
Can you hear us, Tony? Antonia?
Oh, there you go.
Oh,
Tony,
You've
we
done
can
it.
hear
You're with
you.
us. You've done
Yeah.
it.
can you hear me?
Yeah.
Sorry, I've lost visual as well, so apologies.
Well, you're
Well, we
looking
can
good and we
see
can hear
you.
you. So on you go.
Right, thank you, Chair. If I can take questions at the end, please. So, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This report focuses on activity of the Safer Corby team and highlights those areas that have been impacted by COVID-19. So, whilst initially restricted to working from home, our department quickly resumed activity, and by July we were 100% operational again. We've continued our partnership working, and with information from the police, we've issued 104 advisory letters to households for non-compliance of social distancing, with 3 of those going on to receive community protection warnings for failing to comply. So the team have worked tirelessly out in the community, delivering a number of flyers, stenciling 2-metre distancing messages, visiting open spaces for compliance, and ensuring that relevant communications have been on our social media platforms. And more details of that are in the report. The main impacts of the pandemic have been an all-time increase in antisocial behaviour complaints. Housemarque have estimated that ASB complaints nationally are at a 10-year high. We've also seen an increase in domestic abuse reports. So when we review the statistics, both nationally and locally, you can clearly see the need for services, and those service providers have seen an unprecedented demand on what they can deliver. So we've ensured that those service providers information has regularly been communicated via social media and through our leaflets to ensure those who need to access it can. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Antonia. Has anybody got any questions? Lynn, would you like to go ahead?
Please. I know that you said that antisocial behaviour has gone haywire, which there have been several reports out about the increase in people's mental health, not just antisocial behaviour, but also to do with suicides and things like that. Have you been working with mental health services to see how things can be better, say, managed? Is a word rather than just enforcement? Sorry.
Okay, our resources have been very stretched. We've been pulled in to support the COVID response. So we've been supporting the environmental services and the police in relation to the social distancing. So combined that with our high volume of antisocial behaviour complaints, we have had to prioritise, and we have basically been firefighting in relation to that. We are aware that there will be long-term impacts in relation to people's well-being as a result of the pandemic, and we will continue to promote and signpost people to support services. Any information that comes to us via NCC will also promote and support people to be able to access that.
Thank you.
Thank you. I see, Judy, you have your hand up.
Yes, thank you, Chair. And I managed to unmute myself today as well. First of all, thanks for your report, Antonia, and thank you very much for everything you've been doing. I think the response generally that CBC has given out during this pandemic has been brilliant, with the food bank out, the signposting, the COVID callers and stuff. It's been fantastic. Thanks in particular with the ASB issues I've had on Oakley Vale with criminal damage and a mugging. It's just been amazing. And I'm just wondering what, if anything, the plans are with this next set of more severe restrictions that Boris will be announcing, well, has announced, and will be talking to everybody at 8 o'clock about. If there are any plans in this next phase of mini lockdown to do any of the similar things we did in the full lockdown as a council.
We are linked into a county-wide multi-agency group to monitor community tensions. So there have been ongoing discussions around activity around that. We've been looking at planned events, and there has been talk about how we manage this going forward. It's still very early days around that, but we are linked into the county-wide discussions, and if we are asked to support partners in that, then we will look to do so with what resources we have.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thanks, Antonia. Thanks for all your work you've done. Was most of these instances during the strictest part of the lockdown, and did they tail off once the lockdown measures were eased? I'm just thinking that if we are to go into have a sort of a lockdown again, would they correspondingly likely increase again?
Potentially, yes. We did see at the start of lockdown, it kind of there was a bit of a slow start, but then mid-April onwards, right through to the end of May, numbers just kept increasing and increasing, and then we started to see a bit of a tail off towards end of June, but we're having to monitor it and assess it to see if those reports coming through were repeat addresses or not. So, you know, we'll do likewise if needed in the future.
Seems to be a bit of an issue with teenagers running a bit of a riot. Is that part of your numbers?
The information that came to us were all reports to the police via residential breaches of the social distancing where people were visiting people. So that was the information that we were using. In relation to general ASB, we are still investigating that and monitoring that and taking enforcement action as needed in relation to that. So yeah, they're slightly different, but yes, ASB nuisance we've used is potentially on the increase. We've got half term coming up, so you know there are plans in place in relation to some activity around half term and Halloween as well.
Okay, thank you very much. John McGee, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I know I'm only here to give my report later on, but just Lynn's question on mental health. We have a very good community resilience team at Covey Borough Council, and anybody that phones in with mental health problems are referred to the right people, so we are trying to help as much as we can.
Thank you, John. All right, does anybody else have anything for Tony? No? Okay, thanks ever so much for coming to our meeting, Tony. I hope everything goes okay. So Jackie with the housing options briefing, if you're ready, please.
Good evening, councillors. Good evening all. Thank you for the opportunity to deliver on this report. The report itself speaks for itself. Some of those figures there show that homelessness is indeed on the up. However, our reaction to homelessness has been speedy and systematic. If you take it in two parts, when lockdown first occurred, the 2 days prior to it, the team systematically went through the 6 criteria up there and dealt with existing homeless, which we call duty cases, and reviewed all the temporary accommodation and made sure it was suitable for COVID response. Dorking House was also reduced in number to make sure that that was suitable for the COVID response. And some residents were moved out into flats belonging to Corby Borough Council. The rough sleepers, all of those that were willing to come indoors, came indoors. We used our temporary accommodation for that. And new approaches were identified, potential rough sleepers. A mixture of nightly paid accommodation was provided in the early days. Intentional homeless households, we pre-COVID-19 were not evicted, and at the end of their notice period, and their TA was extended. Basically, we've worked tirelessly with landlord services, other landlords in the private sector, hotels in the area and outside of Corby, and the community safety team who have assisted in the early days as well. The numbers there speak for themselves. But we're continuing this. We mobilised quickly. We got a cell meeting up and running very quickly to deal with all of the issues and to deliver on the government's Everyone In campaign. So no person was left sleeping rough unless they refused to take that accommodation. CBC used their void stock to support the empty void stock in the early days, particularly when we weren't doing any new lettings. But as soon as summer restrictions were relaxed, we mobilised again, up and running, got our keyways up and running to start moving people on and into their forever homes. I mean, one of the figures that isn't up there at the moment is that we helped to relocate 74 people into their permanent homes. So thank you for your time, and if you've got any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
I was the person that asked for this to be put on the agenda, and I'm so pleased to hear that it seems like you were so successful. And I was worried about those people, that they might just get left or lost, or I don't know what would happen to them. So I'm really actually proud of what's happened, that you've managed to take care of everybody. So thank you so much. It's really, really fantastic what you've done. And it's just amazing. Once again, Corby Borough Council, incredible with the homeless. So thank you very, very much indeed. Is anybody else? Lynn, what would you like to say? Follow that?
I will. Thank you very much, Jackie, for your report. Again, a good report, and we know what was going on the street, and getting those long-term street dwellers off the streets for such a long time. How do you see the future now? Because obviously the government scheme of no evictions will be coming to the end in October. Are we looking at what statistics we've got going forward to that and what we can do? Thank you.
Yes, we're planning. We still have our housing cell up and running. It has reduced to once a month now, as opposed to twice a week it was in the early days. But we still meet once a month to discuss our strategy in moving forward on this. I've been tasked with a piece of work on drawing up a homeless pathway. And we have a pathway already in existence. It's you come from the streets or from homelessness into temporary accommodation, and we work tirelessly to put you into permanent accommodation, so the home that you need. And then we wrap around support with that. But that needs to be formalised. So we've used Unitary actually as an opportunity to start working collectively and putting that into place. And it's called the Housing First Pathway. It's not a new thing. It's been done in America, Canada, places like that for years. It's been done here for years. It just hasn't formally been put down and processed and funded. So we're looking at how we can try and do that, and baby steps, but we will continue to do the work that we need to do to keep people indoors. We don't want to take our rough sleepers out of the housing that they're in now, because we're doing really well with them actually. The ones that will engage with us, we are doing really well with them and we're managing to get them moved on. Our biggest problem at the moment is no recourse to public funds, but we're working on getting an officer in place to deal with that. And it's really, most people would be entitled to public funds. They just need to process the forms, etc. And we're working to do that. So yeah, we've got plans in place and we're continuing to do what we can do.
Thank you, Jackie.
Alison, hello, what have you got?
Hi, thanks, Chair. Just a quick question for Jackie. Do you know, Jackie, how many rough sleepers you've still got out there on the streets in Corby, and what would be your criteria then for sort of doing another kind of sort of exercise to place them into temporary accommodation? Would it have to be that another full lockdown would happen, or are you looking at the sort of the stepped measures that the government are bringing in over the next few weeks, possibly?
We've got, at the last I looked, and this is no by means up to date, it's probably about 2 weeks old, but the last I looked, we had 5 rough sleepers. When we went into lockdown, we actually had 3 that refused to come in. We've got another couple that have got fed up with lockdown and didn't want to stay indoors. People get used to that way of life, but we continue to work with them day in, day out through our rough sleeper outreach workers, through our housing options team, and we will always continue to work with them to get them indoors. But it has to be their choice. So they have to be the ones that engage with the work that we're doing. And we've never had better engagement since we've had a rough sleeper outreach worker. We've never had better engagement. We have daily engagement with them now. But yeah, the last figure I seen was 5.
Okay, thanks, Jackie.
Kevin, unmute yourself.
I don't know what Anthony's doing. He seems to be.
Anthony's getting ready for Boris. He's
Oh, right,
going to put his dinner jacket on in a minute.
Yeah, just say thank you, Jackie. On the homeless side, talking to Martin, I understand some of the. I think the homeless are actually sort of undertaking medical assistance to help them with their drinking, which is very good. And that was the idea behind the homeless shelter, that they would get extra assistance to help them cope with their issues. On the homeless front, in a sense, this is like homeless going forward. Have you had any sort of like indications from central government about the impacts, the financial impacts that they could have upon people losing properties and then becoming homeless with dependent children? Then we would have a responsibility to house them. From a financial impact point of view, have you had any indications of like to prepare yourself that we should prepare for likely impacts, or is it we're just waiting to see at the moment?
Yeah, nothing from the government, but our landlords are preparing information on the financial impacts. One recent letter that came out was to extend eviction processes of people with rent arrears to 6 months. So they can build up rent arrears up to 6 months before we start to take the process of eviction. And I say we, I mean any landlord, any social landlord. We're in quite of a lull at the moment. So we're looking at people being kept when ordinarily eviction processes would take place. So that's given us a little bit of leeway to work with people as far as we can. However, once this is all finished, then there's going to be a lot of work starting to evict people because of rent arrears, etc. So a lot of work has to take place to deal with that prior to that happening. And people, people are in arrears for a number of reasons. A lot of people are losing work because of this situation. We're officially, I think, in a recession. So it's going to have a real impact, but we're gearing up and we're continually looking to that horizon as to when that will happen and try and gear up to, address it at that time.
Yes, that's a big worry for us in the future, isn't it? Just money-wise. All right, does anybody else have anything for Jackie? No, and I see you there as well, Sam. Thank you for coming. If you'd like to leave, you're welcome. We're just going to go to Chris Stevenson's now for his culture and leisure update. Chris.
Thank you, councillors. Bye-bye.
Actually, Chair, it's a lead members updates.
Yeah, I just helped John out.
Well, someone has to. Come on, John.
Yes, somebody certainly does have to, especially during these difficult times, dear. But isn't it good to hear, Chair, especially through Scrutiny, how much is actually happening in the council? People don't understand out there all the hard work that's going on behind the scenes. Just because the front door's not open doesn't mean there's not a lot of work happening, and it's great to hear that it's actually still happening. And talking about things happening, Chair, there's a lot of work in culture and leisure still happening. And we know that we had to, other than parks, we've had to close a lot of our facilities. But the first ones to open, Chair, with the golf course, which I was pleased about, you'll be glad to hear. And of course, East Calton Country Park. And if you haven't been to East Calton Country Park, under the actual item East Country Park, there's a lot of building work going up there. The cafe is absolutely brilliant looking. Got a new patio area, new windows, lighting, heating, etc. If you haven't been up, try and go up there and have a look. Of course, within the safety demands of it. And can I just say that other services have started to open, but given today's announcement, especially sex, we've always been prepared for anything that's happening, because the rules and the government amends these rules constantly, not just on the television, but they send them out to the council. So we made a decision at the beginning at the March to close all the large events, unfortunately, like the summer dance show, etc. And unfortunately, the department and the council has made a very difficult decision to close or not have the bonfire and firework display, the children's triathlon, the sports awards, the Christmas dance show, of course, is not going to run, which is a great shame. But hopefully all these things will carry on hopefully next year, and we'll keep our fingers crossed for that too. The COVID-19 shutdown has meant large shortfalls in finances at most of our facilities. We realise that. So we don't really know what that cost will be, but an estimated, as it says in your report, Chair, is well over 1 million. And of course, we will be claiming or looking to try and get as much as we can from government compensation, because they have said that we can do that. But that's a huge amount that we've lost through the leisure industry, unfortunately. But that's not to say there isn't things going on, Chair. Have any of you have seen the online fitness programs? If you haven't seen it on Facebook or online that CBC are running, have a look. Absolutely fantastic. And a lot of people are getting involved in that, which is good. And we're still running classes where people book in. We're keeping it down to the very small amount, and it's all got the safety issues on it. And we're making sure everything's cleaned in between that to a high standard. So there are things going on, and in the pool too, where you have to book and people can go in and still get lessons. And that's all been done under very strict social distancing and safety guarding issues. And I would really, want to thank all the staff involved in that, because it doesn't happen itself. A lot of work has been in to make sure that that's happened. Chair, I mentioned the community resilience team earlier. There's got a fantastic team at the borough that are working, helping with volunteers. In fact, I think at any one time, there's 100 people getting help from our volunteers and our staff and volunteers. And that includes councillors too. Councillors have been out there doing it as well. So it's absolutely a lot happening. 400 residents so far has been contacted on the support line with requests for weekly shopping, prescription deliveries, in-touch calls. People just want someone to talk to. And so there's really a lot been happening. And coordinated a large number of volunteers. Some of the groups have been helping, Chair. I'm sure you've all heard of them. Helping Hands Corby. They did a fantastic group from March right up to the end of August when they finished. And they had 700 food parcels given out. It's absolutely fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. So we thank them. And Chair, I'll tell you how good the resilience team is. I received a letter, with your indulgence, it'll take me seconds, but we received this letter to Coverborough Council from someone that had some help, a couple. And it says, Dear Mr. Stevenson, my wife and I would like to thank you and your staff and volunteers, with a special thanks to Rebecca for the kindness and assistance given to us throughout the lockdown. Without your help, we would have been quite distraught, as it would have put us in a dangerous position because of our medical conditions. Thank you all very much. I won't read names out, but it's nice to get that human touch back, isn't it? And realise all the hard work that the staff and volunteers are putting in, Chair. And I know you want to go and see Boris, Chair, so I'm going to try and get through this quickly. I don't particularly want to see him, but I'll listen to what he's got to say.
Thank you very much. Does anybody have anything to say to the lead member? Lynn, are you trying to do your unmuting, or are you okay?
Now.
Go on, Lynn.
Obviously, I'd like to say a big thank you to the team. I've been involved as a volunteer talking to some of those that have been in lockdown, and they've also said, you know, we wouldn't have known what to do if the team hadn't been there. The food banks, the facilities you gave to Helping Hand, you know, it just goes on, and it still continues to this day. The things that I wanted to ask were about the parks and open spaces. I was approached by a young group who wanted to know whether or not the skateboard park at the bottom of West Glebe will be refurbed at any time, because they find that they can't use it anymore, and are going places like Danes Home or something like that. I did try to contact somebody to find out if that was the case. This is obviously from the extra pot of money that you've got. Sorry.
Is that your question, Lynn?
Yes, please.
Chris, I don't know if you want to answer that.
I think.
Sorry, John, you go first.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to whether we've got the money to refurbish that, Chris. I'm sure you can update us. But before you go, Chris, just note in the report that there's been 2 play parks updated with all that equipment. So we are trying to ensure the stuff for young people. Chris?
Yeah, no, at the moment we don't have any spare funding to do the skateboard park there. Liz Hudson, who is the managing the West Glebe Pavilion, is well aware in respect of there needs to be further support. And to be honest, she's doing such a good job in terms of getting external funding. If we can get some extra money for it, then that would be great. But you know, I'm not aware they're not using it. I am aware, obviously, you know, that it has been so well used, but it is very tired now and needs some further work on it.
Thank you.
Then you'll have to go and skateboard somewhere else, I'm afraid.
That doesn't mean, Chair, that we shouldn't be looking at how we can get any external funding, because throughout this report, there's been a lot of external funding brought in for culture and leisure. We're still working on that. So I'm sure Chris and I can ensure you that we will ask the Julie, etc., to look in and see, and Liz, to see if we can find external funding for it.
Okay. Well, I don't know if everybody knows, my favourite story about the golf course lockdown is the little family of blue tits that were living in the ashtray, that no one could use the ashtray because there was a whole family living in there and there was all babies coming out instead of people using it to put their cigarette butts. That's my favourite story from the lockdown. Anybody have anything for the... oh, Kevin, go on. Unmute, sir.
Yeah, it's not unlike me. Yeah, thanks for all your work you're doing. Just on some slightly negative notes, I will agree with Lynn there about the skate park. The graffiti that was put in there when it was put in place has been overlaid with ugly graffiti. To put it, it'd be nice if you could get some accomplished graffiti artists to put some at no cost excellent graffiti on the play park, because it would really benefit from it. And the other thing about that play park area, as I've raised several times with the safer community team, is the prevalence of the use of marijuana in it. It's right next to a kiddies play park. The smell of marijuana, you know, our kids are becoming acclimatized to it, normalized to that smell, and it would be welcome if there was a lot more checks done in that play park, for, you know, to hopefully eradicate it. Fantastic news that new equipment's gone into Glastonbury Road. Is it vandal proof? Hopefully it won't get burnt down. The other thing is a conversation we've had, Chris, about cycle pathways. You know, I've had to report to Environmental Services the route to Weldon. That does need a good going over, a real good clean out. And I think really around the borough, we need to address our pavements, because our pavements are for leisure as well. People walk on them. We really have got 14 years of lack of proper looking after them by the previous company, and you know, it will take a while to get them up to standard, but I'm hopeful that we will address the major ones, address them properly, quickly. So that's really it. You know, well done, and we won't stand still.
Thank you.
Chair, I will answer some of them before I bring in Chris, if that's okay.
Go ahead.
Of course, graffiti is not good anywhere, but that's what young people do, and we'll try and get that stopped. Trying to get anybody to do something for nothing is never easy unless it's volunteering during this difficult COVID time. We've had fantastic volunteers there. But I'm sure if we maybe contact one of the schools or one of the colleges, maybe we can try and get somebody that's got that after skill, and at least we can ask, Kevin. That's, you know, the best we can do for that. The other one of mana checks, it's a shame the community group are not here anymore, because, you know, we will send them a message about that and ask them if they can, between them and the police, monitor that more closely and try and get that stopped. I don't think we'll ever, unfortunately, stop people lighting up these horrible, whatever they call them, but at least we can do our best, and I'm sure Chris will email them tomorrow morning and make sure that they go down there more often. The Glastonbury Road or our parks, nothing's vandal proof, unfortunately. We can give it as much as possible, but nothing's ever totally vandal proof. I'm sure you recognise that. We do our best to try and make sure that it's there. But if somebody came along and burnt that down when we're not there, I don't know why people would even think about that, because they're hurting their own children, their own communities, and it's a disgraceful thing to do. Hopefully this one will stay in place and look good for a long time to come. The other one on I'll let Chris come on the cycle path, but when it comes to the pavements, unfortunately, Kevin, that's an NCC issue. I'm moving forward into unitaries, hopefully now that they're all joined together, we'll be able to do something in that. And just briefly on the cycle pass, we were sent a letter out from NCC who were doing some work on cycling, and I actually did put the whole of Oakley Roads from the top of Densholm right down to Weldon to do a safer cycle path on it, because we see a lot of people go down their routes. Chris, I'll pass over to you.
Okay, well, I think, thank you, John. I mean, you've covered most of it. The only thing I'd add is two things. One, in respect of obviously vandal-proof play areas, John's absolutely right, is that it's impossible to make them completely vandal-proof, as we're well aware. Although with Glastonbury, because it was wooden, it was burnt down, it didn't seem the most appropriate thing to put a completely wooden play area back in there. So it will have a design of a ship, but it will be made out of metal rather than wood. But obviously it will still have some plastic parts because you can't, do something that's going to be interesting for the children and just make it completely metal. In respect to the cycle paths, and well, in terms of pathways, and I totally agree with Councillor Watt in respect of, we've got a lot of paths that need constant repair, and that's been a difficulty for the council in terms of covering. We obviously, where we can, we try to get external funding for it, but as you can imagine, putting forward a bid that talks about pathway repairs and improvements is not the most exciting type of bid, but we have actually managed where we can in terms of getting Section 106 money. We've got £800,000 to spend on improvements to cycle and pathways between the Tesco supermarket and town centre, which is including improving the zebra crossing as well across George Street. However, we've also put in for the Towns Fund for £350,000 towards that. And I'm quite optimistic, I won't say any more than that, that is going to be successful, which means that we've still got the £800,000 to spend on other things other than just George Street. So I think that's something, hopefully, Councillor Watt, that we can speak on in respect of what we can do within the vicinity of the Tesco's area, because that's where the Section 106 funding came from. The other thing to mention is that we're waiting on the Heritage Lottery Fund. We put in a bid for £200,000 for a heritage trail that is going to support in terms of improvements to the paths within 5 of our woodland areas and parks. And again, I'm very optimistic. I won't say any more, but that is going to be successful as well. So, we've got a huge amount happening, which at a time when you think probably maybe the council will be kind of like doing less in terms of the preparation for the unitary. Well, I'm quite honest in saying is that I don't believe that has been the case across the council whatsoever. I think you've heard tonight in terms of some of the reports. Same applies for culture and leisure. In actual fact, I think my team have been working harder than ever, which is, I think, incredible tribute to them and everybody within the council. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Oh, it's all going mad now. Alison, you've had your hand up for a while. I'm going to let you come in now.
Oh, thanks. Just a couple of things. I just wanted to pass on a message to Chris because I've seen some really good, lovely feedback actually on social media about the play park at Pen Green on Stevenson Way, that area. People have been really pleased with that, and I think I think big thanks really to the council for putting that in. Just with regard to the Glastonbury Road pirate ship there, I'm right in thinking that's not been installed yet, Chris, is that right? And if so, do you have a date when you're going to install it? I'm just wondering if it might be in place by half term.
No, I don't think it will be. I can do a check with Rachel. Rachel's been leading on that in Stevenson Way play area. In the report, it says the end of October, but I'll double check tomorrow in respect of exactly when the date is. It is imminent, but I wouldn't like to give you something I'm not 100% sure on.
Okay.
All right. Owen, did you want to speak? Hi, Owen.
Just very quickly, just footpath repairs and so on. There are quite a lot of these in the villages around Corby, which I haven't heard mentioned. I wonder if they could come up at the Rural Area Forum or before that, if you want to just talk about them, because some of the stiles around us are in terrible repair, and we're having to fund them out of the precept, which is not what it's supposed to be for. And also cycle paths between the villages and Corby Centre itself tend to fall into disrepair, so you can get one cycle, not two, and so on and so forth.
Thank you, Owen. Thank you for sticking up for the villages. Anybody have anything else to say?
I don't think we forget the villages. It's extremely important that the villages are kept alive and reachable, and people can get back and forward, especially with cycling, because the more people doing cycling during COVID, because a lot of people are stuck in the house. We need to keep that. We need to be have that well-being about us. So we really need some money spent on cycling paths throughout the whole of the borough, including the villages.
I agree. Kevin, did you want to speak?
Sorry.
Oh, Owen, hold on, Kevin, let Owen come back.
My point was actually getting information from us as to what needs to be done or what could be done, rather than coming from the top down and looking at it to decide what should be done. And that was what I was saying. The Rural Area Forum is an area where we can discuss that. Well, I'm quite happy to come along and talk to anybody you like and get the feedback necessary from other councils before we meet, if that would work.
Chair, it's absolutely essential, and I think that would work, but the county has been responsible for a lot of that, and again, I don't like unitaries and I'm not standing in it, but bringing the boroughs and the districts together with the county will give a better opportunity to get that joint funding to ensure things like that happen.
Yeah, let's hope so. I've also got Judy, you've got your blue hand up.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Chris, I just wanted to say a massive thank you for everything you've been doing during lockdown. And today I was out on Oakley Vale. I've been out on Oakley Vale all day, touching up sculptures and all sorts of stuff and cleaning signs and getting a drone operator to actually go around and video all these sculptures. But can you pass on a special thanks to the Woodland volunteers? Because in preparation for this photography, there was a broken tree, there was a shopping trolley, and there was what do you call it, a traffic cone in the lakes. I phoned them yesterday, explained my predicament that I wanted Corby to look really, really good, because it is really, really good for this photography. 9 o'clock, Ray and Sarah were out there with the landy, with the poles, hoiking out branches, shopping trolleys and cones, which is above and beyond really, and it was really kind of them to do that. So thank you for everything you've done, and please pass on my thanks to those Woodland volunteers who are just superb. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of that, Councillor Kane, and I'm happy, I'm very pleased to pass that on. It's always good to hear that, and we've been able to respond as quickly as we can. I think also I'd embarrass you in respect of thanking you and in respect of the support that you've given us with the community resilience. You know, I know that you've been ringing, you know, an individual and keeping the support with them that was really, you know, not that easy, and you've done a fantastic job for us. So, you know, really appreciate it. Thank you.
Pleasure, anytime.
Lovely. Kevin, are you still wanting to come in?
Yeah, it was just a comment on the pavements and about the county council responsibility. Yes, fair enough. If it's the surface and if it's perhaps roots that have taken up the pavement, but you know, most of the issues on our pavements are is the actual grass growing over it. And the previous operator that we had was not clearing the edges of the pavements. That gets in there. Then there's nettles growing in it. The nettles are overhanging the pavements, and suddenly your pavement is a foot wide. It's not 6 foot wide; it's a foot wide. So that is my comment about the pavements. Quite a bit of a disappointing one about football. I had a constituent contact me that they play football at Turn Lodge Park, and last Monday they were contacted in the morning to say that their regular evening slot, they couldn't go ahead because they were not affiliated to the Football Association. So I'm just asking Chris, what is the difference? What do you expect a football association affiliated team to do that a community team wouldn't do? Because as with the comments about the COVID-19 and mental health, playing sport is very important for these people, and to be denied it at such short notice is quite disappointing.
Right. I mean, obviously, I'm not aware of what happened yesterday. I'm not completely fully up to speed on some of the things that we've had to put in place, because there's so much across every quarter. But I think this is to do with COVID-19 in respect of what numbers are actually playing football. And I think the government guidelines are, obviously, it's got to be in respect of the support from the governing bodies. But, you know, don't take that as a definite. I can check with Kevin tomorrow and come back to you, Councillor Watt, in respect of why that reasons is. But I think it may be, there's something that from point of view of the discussion we had, I'm pretty sure early on that there was something put in place similar to that.
Okay. Lynn, I've still got you with a blue hand. Have you got something more? That's
yes,
it?
please.
Come on then.
It's good to see that the football pitches and things are up and running now. I had a report, and I know that there's a lot more littering going on and fly tipping and things like that. One of the Friends of group who litter picks quite often in West Glebe has reported, because of COVID and the extra things that people are having to do, there's an awful lot of litter being left after some of the teams have played, and they feel quite let down that there's no enforcement of, please make sure that your bits and pieces are picked up before they go home or put in a bin somewhere. And I wonder whether or not you can just have a word in somebody's shell like.
Chris,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, unfortunately, this isn't a problem that's just happened during COVID-19. We have had problems in the past in respect of teams leaving litter behind them. As soon as we are made aware of that, we get in touch with the team and obviously ask them politely to ensure that that doesn't happen. Mostly that is enough that we need to do. We are not need to take enforcement any further in respect to that. So I'll certainly pass that on, and we will ensure that all the teams that are using West Glebe are just reminded, obviously, to pick their litter up and take it home with them or put it in the nearest bin. Thank you.
Thank you.
Fabulous. Thank you, Chris, and thank you, John. It's there's so much going on as always in your area. So, oh, Lynn's back. Lynn.
Oh.
Lynn, you've got your blue hand up again.
Bridget, Councillor Watts, could I say something? Yeah.
Are you never going to use your blue hand, Kevin? Really, for the love of God?
Wait, it's just to say something on behalf of the council here. It's very difficult for the council. The West Glebe is a large area, and there is one person in the office, and it's very disappointing that teams don't take responsibility. Having taken part in Little Pigs at West Glebe, quite often we find the tape that holds up the nets, the tapes that goes around the shin pads, all scattered to the side, the Lucasade bottles that are there from the training, and I think it is difficult for the council to then go around and check every pitch after it's been used, especially when the office got to be manned. The teams really have to take responsibility. It's their park; they use it because it's a good park, and they should look after it.
Well said.
Thank you. Right. I'm gonna try and bring this meeting to a close now. Boris is probably thinking, where are we? I wonder if anybody's got anything that they'd like to put onto the forward plan for us. Our next meeting I see is on the 15th of December. And there's not much business in between now and then other than unitary. But I wonder if anybody's got anything that they'd like to particularly think about. Judy?
Oh, yeah, can you hear me? Yes. Yeah. Chair, just a point, I should have raised it at the beginning, really. Congratulations on being elected as chair at annual council. Do we need to elect a vice chair?
Well, there's a question. Or am I going to have my traditional vice chair back in post?
I think everybody else is happy, but I just thought I'd raise it because we need a chair and a vice chair as a committee.
Yeah, I think it's something we need to do at the next meeting, Councillor Kane. It didn't come up until after the papers had gone out for this meeting, so it wasn't on the agenda.
No,
which
that's
it
fine.
should
I just
be.
thought I'd raise it as a
So we'll do it at the next meeting.
No problem. Thank you.
Lynn, you're really getting the hang of this blue hand. Go on.
I know. There's an item that's coming up on the forward plan for the new planning things that they want to put in place, which is coming on the 14th of October. Our next meeting is the 20th of October. Wonder if we can have sight of what what's going to go in that.
Is that 20th of October meeting happening, Laura?
I think it's unlikely that that one will take place.
Okay, sorry, Dad.
That's a ghost meeting, which isn't happening. That's about the local plans, all of the villages and everybody doing local plans.
No, it's the new Planning Act, which is out for consultation at the moment, where developers will have the opportunity to put up what they like, where they like.
Oh, this brand new, yeah, well.
I don't think that's entirely accurate.
Well, it could be.
It's a sort of bend in the law, isn't it, which is being proposed to get stuff, to get the economy moving. Is how I see it. I don't know if that's right, but that's what I see. But yes, well, we're not anyway meeting until December, Lynn. Is that okay?
Chair, if I can come in, I mean, obviously the local plan committee is an open meeting for the public, so they can watch it on YouTube or obviously participate through the participation procedure if they wish to.
Okay, thank you very much, Paul. Right, does anybody have anything else they would like to add to this evening's business?
Just not this evening's business, but for the next meeting, can we have a health update of any sort?
There you go. Laura, can we do that?
Can you give me a bit more detail? What are you looking for?
Well, we've got unitary, and you've got are they having a county-wide health committee, or is it going to be North Northants and South and West Northants? I don't know who's, our Kettering and Northampton being separate hospitals. We hear rumours all over the place, and just an update.
I don't think health services are in any way connected to the unitary process. That's completely separate. The only bit that's connected is public health, I think.
Mental health is already county-wide, but provision of emergency services is at the moment. There's one hospital in the north and one in the west. I just don't know what's going to happen. I keep hearing rumours all over the place. But anyway, if it's not for this committee, then I'll find out some other way. Don't worry.
Thank you, Owen. We have in the past had, oh no, I think it was a different council grouping that we had the CCG come to see us.
Yeah.
Where would that have been, Laura?
I think it probably was an ONS committee. Yeah, I think it probably was.
Okay.
We had two, didn't we? Did we have a full? We had a members briefing and overview and scrutiny.
Yeah,
we could approach them to see if anybody would come. I know they're busy.
Yeah, we can ask the question. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right, everybody. Well, thank you ever so much for spending your evening with us. If there's anybody there watching YouTube, thank you. And I'm going to finish this meeting now. Have a lovely evening, everyone, and enjoy the Prime Minister. Good night. Thank you.
Good night,
everyone.